Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. Today we're going to talk about a very troubling development in the Banko Brown case, which I covered previously on this channel, and the new piece of legislation that is being pushed by one of San Francisco's Board of Supervisors to essentially make it completely illegal for a security guard to defend himself in life-threatening circumstances. Yes, that's right. You have a transit thief who attacked a security guard, threatened to stab him. He defended himself, and even the San Francisco District Attorney is not pursuing charges. So the result of that is to pass a new law, or at least propose a new law, saying that you have no right to defend yourself from a deadly force threat. It's absolutely tragic. It's ridiculous. It's absurd, and before we get into it, we're going to have to go to the sponsor, but trust me, you're going to want to come back on the other side so we could tell you what's going on. Collagen has often been referred to as the modern-day fountain of youth, and there's a good reason for that. As we get older, our body's ability to produce it naturally gets severely limited. This leads to brittle nails, brittle hair, and you losing your youthful glow on your skin, and this is one of the reasons why I highly recommend this collagen supplement over at healthwithjustice.com. It has 5 different types of collagen formulated specifically to help restore that youthful glow. You scoop a little bit of it in your morning beverage and you're good to go for the rest of the day. On top of that, guess what? 51% off if you go to healthwithjustice.com. Grab this deal before it's gone. That's healthwithjustice.com. Now, first things first, right off the top, I need to issue a correction about my previous coverage on this story. So in that previous video, I said something to the effect of Banko Brown drew a knife and advanced on the security guard, and that is what caused the security guard to shoot Banko Brown. However, this actually came from social media, that specific portion of it, and it was combined with information in a story by my brain, and I ended up delivering inaccurate or at least unconfirmed information at this point in time, because what is confirmed, and you can understand a little bit of my confusion, is that Banko Brown attacked the guard physically, advanced upon him, and threatened to stab him, so I just inserted the knife. However, that threat may have been an empty threat, but it doesn't change the legality of the situation, because if somebody is physically assaulting you and then they say, I'm going to stab you, that is a threat of deadly force, and a reasonable person can defend themselves against this. So as of right now, I do not have confirmation that there was a knife present in the hand of Banko Brown. All I have confirmation of is the fact that Brown threatened deadly force against somebody during the time that Banko was attacking the security guard, and even though this does not change the legality of the situation, I'm trying to give you as accurate information as possible, and I hate giving bad info. I messed up. It's my fault. I am sorry. That's the only apology you're ever going to get from me in my entire life, because I will continue my perfect streak of being perfect henceforth. So once again, we have a situation where left-wing progressives are making moves to privilege the criminals over the security guards. Now, we're already seeing all these different various stores close across San Francisco and other major left-wing cities across the country due to the fact that theft isn't being prosecuted and it's actually being protected by them. But this takes it one step further in the city of San Francisco.
Hey everyone, District 5 Supervisor Dean Preston. As the pressure continues to mount for the district attorney to release the videotape of Walgreens security guard shooting and killing Banko Brown, we also need to take some action to make sure this never happens again. That's why today at the Board of Supervisors, I will be calling for legislation to specifically prohibit security guards from drawing their weapons to protect property.
Now, while I actually do agree I want to see the video surveillance of this idea that it is just a reasonable and totally innocuous proposal that you're going to prevent guards from drawing their firearm during theft situations or in the defense of property is absurd on its face. It is already precedent, as we've talked about time and time again on this channel, that you cannot kill somebody just for a petty theft or a shoplifting offense. This is standard law. It's across the country, built into our common law. It is not something that we approve of at any level. So this extra piece of legislation, it's clearly and obviously meant to undercut reasonable self-defense rights, because obviously obviously, if it were just Banko Brown stealing property and fleeing, the deadly force would have not been justified. And if you think about this proposal specifically that is being described, he doesn't want you to be able to draw your firearm in terms of defending property, which again is very sketchy and very ambiguous, and considering the situation involved the threat of deadly force with a knife, essentially means that if somebody is in a store within that zone that you hear so much about, that 21-foot zone, where they could get to you and start stabbing before you could draw a firearm and defend yourself from that knife attack. So what this guy is doing is essentially trying yet again to empower the criminals, and to be clear, it wasn't just Banko Brown stealing and involved in this altercation.
San Francisco police say security guards can be armed with guns depending on the situation. Brown's cousin, who is also at the Walgreens, says this was avoidable.
I just feel like guns shouldn't be allowed, like security-wise. If you're not law enforcement, like police, you shouldn't have a gun, because stuff like this happens off of little stuff. Nobody's life is worth something being stole from a store.
It was also Banko Brown's cousin.
Human life is more important than property. We need to change our local law so that security guards cannot unholster their weapons just to protect property.
And the thing that pisses me off the most, even beyond further neutering the rights of self-defense in left-wing cities, is what he just said right there, that human life is worth more than property. We all understand that. We all account for that, except for one person in the scenario that he's talking about, and of course, that person is Banko Brown. Banko Brown threatened the use of deadly force over property. Banko Brown initiated a physical altercation over property. Banko Brown is the one who did not value or wanted the security guard to be in fear of his life over whatever stupid amount of goods that Banko Brown was stealing from that Walgreens. So you should tell all the criminals, don't threaten deadly force over property, because human life is more valuable than property. And by the way, we've seen this time and time again from all of these, they're just Aladdin-style shoplifters. When confronted, you know what they end up doing? Attacking and killing people over property. So this idea that it is the security guard, the person who is tasked with defending the store, defending the community, because shoplifting destroys communities when it's allowed to go unchallenged, it ends up leading to these stores closing, these areas becoming completely deserted, and thus that ends up driving the poverty, because yes, crime drives poverty, not the other way around. So you have a man in the face of all that, whose job it is, and he's not getting paid all that much, to deal with all the negative consequences of policies pushed by politicians like this, and you're going to say he didn't value human life enough. Yes, he did. He valued his human life more than Banko Brown's right to steal, divine right to steal, due to the fact that Banko Brown is a transit. And by the way, if you don't think that's what this is about, get a load of this local news segment that just paints Banko Brown as this innocent, stunning, and brave angel who didn't do nothing wrong, and Banko Brown was honestly a transit who struggled with homelessness. Banko Brown was in the midst of a fight over homelessness.
We want them to release the tapes. And we want justice for Banko Brown. Say his name. Banko Brown.
Banko Brown already got justice. Let's be clear about that. When you threaten deadly force against somebody trying to do their job because you want to steal rather than participate in society, you get what's coming to you.
They chanted his name and called for the district attorney to release a video of the encounter between Banko Brown and the armed security guard who tried to stop him for shoplifting. Friends describe Banko as a black transgender man who was a community organizer with the Young Women's Freedom Center. He struggled with homelessness for years.
Oh, isn't that sweet? Friends describe Banko Brown as a community organizer and worked with all these troubled women. Wow, wow, wow. So stunning, so brave, so beautiful. Why didn't they just tell the security guard when Banko Brown was attacking said security guard and threatening to stab said security guard that Banko Brown was just this stunning and beautiful, brave community organizer? She was saying that she was going to organize the community of his organs with a knife potentially, and he should have just taken it because, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, property is not worth more than human life. You need to die or be physically victimized by a criminal, because I don't know if you guys are aware of this, property is just not worth human life. I mean, it's definitely worth the potential death of the security guard who was threatened with deadly force, according to all these activists that are out in the streets, but it's definitely not worth the life of a poor trans activist who was a community organizer that was just struggling with homelessness. Basically, this is not something like a woman transitioning into a man. This is a woman mid-transition into an Aladdin-like character.
Julia Arroyo was among the crowd that marched to City Hall on Sunday.
We proved to this Black trans young man, and I say we because I think of it to all of us collectively as a community in San Francisco, is we proved to him that he was not safe. He was not safe to go inside of that store.
Okay, so I actually played this clip for the first time, and I had several reactions that won't make the cut of this video because the audacity, the absolute absurdity of that statement cannot be measured, and my reactions were a little bit angry, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. We proved as a collective, as a society, to Banko Brown that it was not safe to step into that store. So the stepping into the Walgreens was the issue at hand because, oh my god, so unsafe for the trans Aladdins that are out there. How could we possibly deal with the consequences of our society just not being safe for a trans Aladdin? I think you're skipping a few steps. It's not a story of Banko Brown being a trans activist going into a store and then just being killed. You're missing the whole thing about Banko Brown stealing stuff with Banko Brown's cousin, then being confronted by a security guard, then attacking the security guard, and then threatening the use of deadly force. Again, it's San Francisco. If there was any cause to charge in a case involving the death of a trans, they would be doing it. This has to be the most obvious self-defense case ever recorded in the city of San Francisco for D.A. Jenkins to not charge this.
This past week, Brooke Jenkins said the guard would not be charged with murder, citing evidence of reasonable self-defense. Her office is not releasing the video because it's part of the investigation.
Unfortunately, I am limited in what I can share, as this is still an ongoing investigation, is that there was force and violence used, as well as threats of violence that occurred during this incident towards the security guard.
So there you have the DA saying or alluding to what I'm describing. She's actually being very tight-lipped about this, which is really annoying me, because essentially we have to read the tea leaves from these statements, talk about what's being reported from the witnesses, because there were multiple witnesses, and try to piece this together. I wish the video were released. I wish we could see how criminal Banko Brown actually was, how bad a trans Aladdin acted in this situation. But of course, for whatever reason, whenever we have evidence related to a self-defense case, something that could be exonerating for the defender, all of a sudden we have all these restrictions about what can be made public. As soon as we have some out-of-context clips that paint somebody as guilty, those are flooded across the internet. But right now, we need to leave room for speculation of these woke activists who think trans Aladdins are ordained by God with the natural right to steal, assault, and threaten deadly force on security guards.
The DA's decisions have upset Banko's friends, supporters, and activists.
Actually not releasing these tapes perpetuates more violence, and more violence against trans youth to be particular. No matter what it is, this person did not deserve to be the judge, jury, and executioner in this young person's life. Whatever was taken out that store was not worth a person's life.
So once again, after watching a clip of this exact same woman talking, we are left with a lot of things that I said into this microphone while looking into this camera that will not make the cut of this video. But the absolute absurdity of that statement almost eclipses the previous absurdity put forward. First and foremost, this has nothing to do with Banko Brown being a trans. I'm sorry, I know you think that the transes are ordained by God with natural superhuman rights to steal and threaten to murder, and maybe even murder whoever they want at a whim because they're experiencing poverty, they're transitioning through homelessness as well as transitioning to an Aladdin, but that is not the case. That is not how the law works, number one. Number two, she also said whatever's on that tape, it doesn't mean that he had the right to defend himself against the attack and the threat of deadly force. I don't care what's on the tape that I'm demanding be released, but let me hedge my bets and say he didn't have the right to have that power to make those judgments.
No matter what it is, this person did not deserve to be the judge, jury, and executioner in this young person's life.
And I agree. The security guard should not have been in a position to make the judgment to use deadly force against Banko Brown. However, I think where we're a little off on the issue at hand is that Banko Brown is the one who put him in that position. Banko Brown is the one that attacked him over property, who didn't value the safety of the security guard over Banko's desire for that property. Banko Brown's the one who threatened deadly force, and that put the security guard into a position where he needed to defend himself, where it was reasonable to defend himself. Not to mention that Banko Brown, as we talked about in our previous video, was stealing along with another person. So we have multiple potential attackers, a threat of deadly force, and you can understand why a security guard would reasonably defend himself against a situation like that, unless you're only going to Banko Brown's activists that are going to try to make this a trans thing.
Whatever was taken out that store was not worth a person's life.
Whatever was taken out of that store was not worth a person's life. So Banko Brown should not have stolen that and then threatened a person's life.
Senator Scott Wiener called on the DA to release evidence, including the video and witness statements, to the public.
The community is in pain and people are angry that this happened, especially with some of the information that's come out. And at this point, I think it's just really important to be transparent with the community so that people know what happened.
Now look, at this point in time on May 10th, which is when I'm recording this video, I want the video released. I want the public to see the evidence, and I understand that there's different procedures and whatnot, but it is something that we should be able to see so we can point out how ridiculous and absurd these activists are being. And if we're not going to release the video immediately, I think more information from the multiple witnesses would absolutely be crucial. All we have is the press and what they can find from the witnesses that they've spoken to, and I would love to see the actual witness statements and the evidence as shown by the surveillance video in order for us to know exactly what's going on. So in that regard, I agree. However, there's a lot of comparisons between the security guard, who is a private citizen, to public interest officer involved shootings, and I don't think that's a one-to-one thing that you can't draw distinct delineations from. But whatever. If the video is released and obviously it changes any of the circumstances, I will do another follow-up update video. If it's released and it's confirmed what I was reporting, or we actually have evidence of the knife actually existing, not just being threatened, I will also talk about that in a future video. But until then, this is just another ridiculous example of the attempt to undermine the right to self-defense, and this time it has the trans god-tier rights spin on it, which I find to be patently absurd. But hey, those are just my thoughts. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, show them by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social media. Support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the Banko Brown updates. Till next time.